All righty, I am here. Okay, so it's a brand new day, brand new week. I know everybody was very disappointed last week. I know I was, but at least I'm advanced to my next round, my survival pool pick. So that's all that matters. So join me on Safe for Trap. He is a NFL and fantasy football content. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Dustin Ludke to the program. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me on. Happy Halloween. Enjoying a good day. Getting ready for this Thursday night football game. We got Texans Jets coming on in a little bit.
Exactly. So I know there was a lot of people last week. They chose the New York Jets over the Patriots because, in theory, it did sound right. But then when you look at the whole game, you probably was disgusted. It was like, oh my goodness, I will never pick the New York Jets ever again. Just like when the Jets lost to the Denver Broncos at home, it
Yeah.
was a punch in the gut.
Yeah, I think that's part of it is I think a lot of times when we're doing survivor pools, people look at teams on paper and that doesn't always translate to field. So one of my rules for survivor pools is never pick divisional games because there is familiarity with coaching staffs and teams and tendencies. Because they see them twice a year, because they scout them more heavily, because they're more important games, I generally stay away from divisional games as a rule of thumb, unless I'm like desperate and have to pick one.
Right. And then there was another one. I know a lot of people got to say, because we talked about this before we got on the air, was a lot of people chose the Baltimore Ravens over the Cleveland Browns because when you think about it, no Deshaun Watson, and they was looking at Jameis Winston because many people were looking at Jameis Winston when he was playing with Tampa Bay. But you got to be very careful when you see stuff like that.
Yeah,
And
and that's
without a
what
Bart Cooper.
and that's my other rule of thumb is anytime you get a quarterback change or a head coaching change, I avoid those as well because it's just an unknown. It's too much chaos, too much unpredictability that you just don't know what kind of spark that's going to bring. Now we saw it with the Jets when they fired Robert Saleh. What that did, nothing. But you just don't know what Jameis Winston brings to the Browns. Obviously, he provided enough spark for them to win. I had the same fears for Colts this week. Like Colts could come out and beat Minnesota because Joe Flacco might provide that extra little spark on that team. The Vikings may have been planning for Anthony Richardson for the past 2 weeks. They've had less than a week to really game plan for a different style of quarterback. So it just creates too much uncertainty for me. So avoid divisional games, avoid any sort of quarterback coaching change team. And I think you can generally, if you keep with those two rules, generally you can find yourself some good teams to pick and not have those big upsets.
And when you think about the Indianapolis Colts, because right now they're 4-4, so it's not like the team is awful.
No.
And if you look at their games they've been playing, they have been either won or lost by close games. Because this year, this Colts team is healthy.
Yeah. And that's part of it is that when you're looking at teams that are, or you're looking for survivor pools, you're looking at who they're playing. When you look at these teams that can score points, but also are giving up points, I don't really like that. You're right. The Colts have lost, I think, all one score games. I think there was one game that was more than one score. I don't like that. I want teams that are getting either blown out or blowing out people. Like I want that mid
Exactly.
max. I want to find a team that's either scoring a bunch of points and not giving it up, or not scoring a ton of points and giving up a ton. That's what I'm looking for. So this week, Kansas City Tampa Bay looks like an enticing matchup. But when you talk Tampa Bay, they're letting up the 30th most points. Like they're really bad at defense. They just can't stop you from scoring. But they're also third in scoring points. So they're giving up 38 points, but they're scoring 35 points a game. I don't want that. I'm looking at a team that's going to give up 35 points but can only score 15.
Oh, let me show it on this. Let me show the screen. Oh, okay, there we go. I was like, where the heck the screen is? And before we begin, I want to say this: I am doing a safe or trap survivor pool for NFL and college football. So all you have to do is register Splash Sports either on Google Play or on the Apple App Store. Use my referral code UUM2IX, and if you put 2 entries, you get $10 free. So please make sure that the state you live in that you are eligible to play Splash Sports. So since I live in Michigan, I'm able to play Tiers, Survivor, and Pick'em. Either Pick'em or Pick'em Confidence. And Splash Sports actually did what else they did? They also added new ones called player props, but it's actually a peer-to-peer. So Splash Sports is more of a peer-to-peer rather than your usual daily fantasy sites. So that's what I like about Splash Sports. But ever since they opened in Michigan, It's addictive. Let's just say that it's addictive, and you have to be very careful, like you said, be very paying attention of who's injured and what the spread is and stuff like that.
Yeah, you definitely have to keep a track when you're doing into these sort of survivor pools, pick'ems. There's a lot more than just goes into looking at one thing. You kind of have to look at a bunch of things and kind of whittle down your picks. Kind of have to be strategic with how you pick teams, right? You don't want to just pick all the good teams right away, and then you
Right.
get to week 9 and you're stuck with scrubs. You want to kind of be strategic, pick good matchups, not good teams.
Right. All right. So the first one we're going to talk about is the Los Angeles Rams and the Seattle Seahawks. So right now, the Rams are in the middle of the NFC West race. So if the Rams were to lose the game against the Seahawks, there's possible that Cooper Kupp could be in the trading block. So the Rams do have enough veteran pieces to pick apart a vulnerable Seahawks defense, and there aren't many easy games left on the Rams schedule if you look at it. Now, when I look at the Seahawks, the Seahawks have lost each of their last 5 games against NFC West opponents on a winning streak, and the road team has won the first quarter in each of the Seahawks' last 3 games. Now, before, I think I want to say Wednesday, I thought I want to take the Rams, but I was like, I don't know about that because the Seahawks, when you're in Seattle, you never know what's going to happen. So I was going to say the Rams, but like you said, you want to stay as far away from divisional games as possible.
Yeah, and there's a lot we don't know, right? If the Rams are serious about trading Cooper Kupp, which I don't think they are, but the rumors are out there. There's also been rumors of them trading Matthew Stafford. Do they limit them, especially Cooper Kupp in this game? Can they just pull them out third quarter? Like, let's say it's halftime or third quarter and they're down by 20 points, 21 points. Do they just not play Cooper Kupp, run the risk of injuries because he's going to get traded? That could happen. Again, I stay away from divisional games. The spread on that game is not great. I think it's a 1.5 point spread. Going to the Rams. Yes, no DK Metcalf for Seattle, but they have Lockett and Jackson Smith and Jigba. They have Noah Fant, the tight end, who's picked up well. Jake Bobo's filled in. Again, divisional matchups for me are just, you never know. Especially, I don't like picking road teams, so it'd be really hard for me to pick the Rams there in a divisional game with a close spread. Let's face it, Vegas odd makers, that's what they do for a living, and they have to be good. So if they're saying it's a 1.5 point game, that means it's almost too close to call.
Exactly. That's like, no. And by the way, that is Fox's game of the week. Well, everybody's going to watch the Detroit and Green Bay game. The next one, since Fox is doing a doubleheader, the first one, I'm glad they're showing the game. It is the Dallas Cowboys and the Atlanta Falcons. Actually, I look at that game, I was like, the Cowboys defense is not that good because they did lose to the San Francisco 49ers, by the way. And Atlanta, they have shown cracks on the defensive side of the ball, and that's going to allow Dak Prescott to get back on track. And I'm really not confident in that. This is another one I'm very not confident. I'm very not confident with the Cowboys passing game because you never know what type of Dallas Cowboys team you're going to pick. And then you also got to look at Kirk Cousins. Now, at least with Kirk Cousins, you know what to expect when it's a day game. But when it's a night game, primetime game, that's when you be like, what happened, especially in fantasy football, because I'm very wary of Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, I mean, this game was interesting to me. It's only a 3 point spread. Atlanta's getting 3 points, which is like the home team bump, but it's a 51.5 over under. That means telling me they're expecting lots of scoring. Again, I think Dallas, what they're good at is short passes, getting CeeDee Lamb in the slot, having him run over the middle. I think that's where Atlanta's defense excels. And same thing with Atlanta. I think Atlanta is really good using Kyle Pitts running the ball against Micah Parsons. I just think it's a defensive, offensive strength on strength matchup. So I think it could just be a really tight game. It just, to me, looks very tight at a 3 point over under. Again, I'm avoiding. I think it's going to be a fun game to watch. I'm looking forward to watching this game. I just don't want to bet on this game because there's too much unknown there. Like, it's just going to be.
I was like this.
Yeah, it could be. This could easily be the highest scoring game of the season, or it could be like a 10-3 game. Like, it could just be absolute dog water because Cousins and Dak both get in these modes where they can just start through. They could have games where they have 5 interceptions each, and we could see this game where it's just a bunch of garbage. So I don't want that. There's much better matchups this week. If you're desperate, which you shouldn't be desperate in week 9, I think there's just better matchups for me when I'm looking at a Survivor Pool this week.
Right. Now, here's another one I have also been looking at because I did say Fox is doing a doubleheader. Now, this is the nationally televised game. That is the Detroit Lions against the Green Bay Packers. Now, I want to remind everyone that this is the first game that Detroit is playing outdoors. Now, last week, I did pick the Detroit Lions against the Tennessee Titans because Detroit was fair by 11. That's legit. And then Green Bay, they almost lost to Jacksonville because Green Bay couldn't have blown out Jacksonville. And then there's a rumor that about Jordan Love's status, but again, it's like you said, stay away from this, stay away from the division rivalry game, and we don't know how this Detroit Lions team is going to play now they're outside because most of the games they've been playing so far this year has been dome games.
And it's not just outside; it's in Green Bay, and Green Bay has like a 90% chance of rain. So you're talking it could be just a wet, cold, windy. Even if it doesn't rain, you're looking at probably high winds. I don't like that for either end. If you're talking a Jordan Loveless Packers and the Detroit Lions team outdoors in the wind and rain, no, I don't want that. It's an old school football game where I think it's going to be a lot of running the ball, but that just means that if you're talking a wet field, wet football, that too many turnovers, that game of inches becomes too much for me.
Exactly. No, I'm good.
Yeah, weather's going to play a big factor in that game.
Right. Because usually recently they have been putting that game recently on national television because before then they wouldn't show the Lions and Packers.
No, I mean the Lions haven't been good until last year, really. So they're always a year behind. So going in when they made the schedule for last year, no one expected the Lions to be great. They came out, had a really good year. Obviously, this year they're going to get more nationally televised games. We knew the Packers were good last year. So again, even the Packers last year we didn't know. So I think you're looking at two up-and-coming teams in a tough division. I think you're going to see these teams on national television a lot more in the years to come.
I absolutely agree. Now, here's one. It is the Chicago Bears and the Arizona Cardinals because the Cardinals are favored by 1. As you know, Chicago Bears lost to Washington in a Hail Mary. I did see that video. That was
crazy.
That was kind of bad. And then all of a sudden, Arizona beat Miami, and the person that actually picked Arizona over Miami was Gronk. I was like, unbelievable. So I know he's happy. Now, after Arizona plays Chicago, they also got to play the Jets, and then after that, they got a bye week. So right now, the Cardinals are whoever thought the Cardinals were first place in the NFC West, because I would never thought the Cardinals would ever be first in the NFC West, but I expect them to be better than they were last year. And plus, they got a new head coach. So that also plays a part in that.
Yeah, I mean, the Cardinals are good. They're, again, I don't want to say up-and-coming team, but I think they are a little bit, right? We haven't seen Kyler Murray for a full season in a long time. Obviously, they got Marvin Harrison. Obviously, we know the Bears are up-and-coming with Caleb Williams. To me, it's what is Caleb Williams in that Bears offense, because we've seen them be good. We've seen them be not so good. Like, even the Washington game, like, yes, they were winning, but they weren't, like, lighting the world on fire on offense. They were just okay. And Arizona's the same way. Like, they have been really spectacular and fun to watch, but they've also had games where you watch and look at the games and you're like, what is going on? Like, how did you guys not score, more than like 15 points? Like, what are you doing? So when you're talking survivor pools, again, a 1 point spread, going to Arizona, not a huge bump there. So again, expected to be a close game. I don't want a game that's projected to be a 15-17 game. Like, it's just not a ton of points there. I think it's only it's a 44-point over-under. Like, that's 20 to 22 game, right? That's what you're looking at there. So I'm not really looking at a high-scoring game. One bounce of a ball and a fumble going to the other team can honestly swing that the wrong way. So again, I think you have better options. Should be a fun game. I'm excited to see Harrison go against Caleb on some level in that stage. After Caleb just kind of lost to Jaden Daniels. Even though they don't play head-to-head, there still is that kind of rookie rivalry. So it'll be interesting to see. Fun game to watch, but I'm not willing to take a piece of that in any sort of betting action.
Exactly. Now, there are 2 games. There's actually a couple of games because we did say a couple of games you could also look at. Looking at what else I'm looking at? I'm also looking at the Bengals over the Raiders because the Bengals haven't won a home game this year because they could have beat Philly, but Bengals just fall flat into their face because let's be honest, the Raiders are not that good. Because if you look at the Bengals, they're actually 7.5. So that's not a bad number, because if you look at the points that Cincinnati's putting is 24.4 points per game, while Raiders is 18th, and plus they don't have Devontae Adams.
Yep.
And I look at that Raiders, I'm like, they probably can't. The Raiders defense probably couldn't stop Cincinnati. I'm like, you might as well take Cincinnati.
Yeah, this is one of the two games that I'm looking at. I think Cincinnati is one of the games that I would lock in on a Survivor Pool this week. When you're talking about a 7.5 point spread, and you're looking at a 40, I think it's a 43 point over under. Let's see here, what is that? Yeah, it's a 46. So they're expecting the Bengals to score 27 points almost. And that means that if you're talking about that differential, right, the Raiders are only scoring 18, but giving up 26, almost a 10-point differential in what they're giving up, what they're scoring. That's 2 scores. That gives you plenty of margin for something to go wrong on one of the Bengals drives. The Bengals still should win. I'm willing to lock in the Bengals. There's one other matchup I like better, but if you haven't, we can get into that matchup. But if you haven't used the Bengals, I think this is a great way to use the Bengals. T. Higgins probably not going to play, but he may not play the rest of the season. He might get traded. The Bengals are still clicking on offense right now. You still have Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, who are an elite duo in the league. They've had a decent passing game, with the other guys, Andre Yosevich, Chase Brown, Mike Gesicki, and Eric All at tight ends. Running game's been good. I think they can easily beat the Raiders. The Raiders are a big question mark. Who's the quarterback? Obviously, they've gone to Minshew. Does Antonio Pierce keep his job all season? Who knows? They could lose this week and he gets fired. So will they trade Max Crosby? Who knows? This could be a game where Max Crosby plays very little because they're going to trade him on Monday. So who knows? I like the Bengals this week. That's one of my locks for this week in Survivors. Pick the Bengals.
And then I also look at the Chiefs and the Buccaneers, because the Buccaneers they don't have Mike Evans and what's his name? Mike Evans, Chris Godwin. And plus the game's at Arrowhead Stadium. Now the game I don't like is the Colts and the Vikings, because if it was Anthony Richards, I would say take the Vikings. But since Joe Flacco's playing, it's a no-no for me, because if you see it, 28% people choose the Colts, while 71% choose the Vikings. So if you're going to choose the Vikings, I will be very cautious of that. I will be very cautious.
It's another one of those games very much like the Cleveland Browns last week with Joe Flacco coming in. Does that give them the spark to beat the Vikings, who are good, but it's still Sam Darnold back there, who can revert back to his old self? Chiefs, Buccaneers is a good one. It's a Monday night game, so you're going to be sweating all weekend. I love that the Buccaneers are giving up the 30th most points, but they're also scoring the 3rd most. So they are giving up 35 points a game, but they're also scoring 35 points a game. So again, you're just not getting enough. You're not getting enough differential there for me. It's an interesting matchup, good point spread. So my process is I take out all the divisional matchups, then I look at anything that's 5 or more points over in a point spread, and then I go from there. Who's got anybody coming off a bye week, anybody with a coaching or quarterback change, like you see with the Colts. So it was on my short list, but I'm wary of Tampa Bay. They can still score points when needed.
And then there's another one. They should win it, but I'm very iffy. Is that the Broncos and the Ravens? Because right now they're actually showing that game in my area. By the way, now, yeah, I know. I would never thought that game would be Jim Nantz and Tony Romo calling that game. Now the thing about the Broncos, because I know they did beat the Carolina Panthers, but their defense is not to be fooled. No. So if you pick Baltimore, you may want to pay attention to the Broncos defense, and you got to look at Bo Nix, because I would have never thought Bo Nix would be like this spectacular quarterback so far.
Yeah, I mean, it's the biggest point spread. It's an 8-point. It's an 8. Baltimore's minus 8 right now on the spread. It's the biggest one of the week. Obviously, Baltimore is really good. You look at it this way: they're they're scoring 30 points, but they're only giving up 26, so 4 points. I look at Denver; they're scoring 21, but they're only giving up 15. So they're scoring more than they're giving up. Bo Nix is a good quarterback. He's young. He's going to have his growing pains. I think Baltimore's going to frustrate him. But Baltimore could come out and shock the world and lose this game. And, Denver could go out and win. It wouldn't surprise me at all. And so it's scary when you're talking about, I think this will be a game that's going to lock a lot of people out, because they're going to pick Baltimore. I think on your thing, it was 80% of people are picking Baltimore. If you're picking 81%. Baltimore, if you're picking Baltimore in your Survivor Pool, it's not the Denver you thought it was. It's a good Denver team. it's a good Denver team, and I think we're slow to realize that they're actually really good and actually coming on pretty strong. In the past 2 weeks, Bo Nix has looked really, really good. I think Bo Nix is in the running for Rookie of the Year right now.
Oh yeah.
So I'm not trying to bet against them. Again, there's just better matchups for me. I think I would take I'd take Kansas City over Tampa over this game. I would take
Cincinnati over the Raiders.
Cincinnati over there for sure.
Eagles.
Yeah, Eagles for me is
Eagles over the Jaguars.
That's my biggest lock. I think if I'm looking at a team, if I had every team available, it's Eagles over Jags. Eagles look really good. Jacksonville can't score points. Like they're middle of the road. They're 14th in scoring points. They're second in points against. So they're not scoring a ton, but giving up a ton of points. You've already used the Eagles, so I think you go with Cincinnati. But Cincinnati and the Eagles are the two teams that I think are locks this week to win. Jacksonville has looked better, but they just lost Brian Thomas. He's got a rib injury. Yep. Sounds like Travis Etienne's not going to play. Trevor Lawrence is a good, not great quarterback. So I think it's another game where if you haven't taken the Eagles already, I think it's a good week to take them.
Right. And then I also want to mention about Baltimore, like I don't know if people know this about Baltimore. Baltimore's going to have some issues with the passing defense. So if Baltimore can't stop the Broncos offense passing game, then there could be spelling for trouble.
Yeah. And I think everybody's excited about Baltimore. They just traded for Deontay Johnson, thinking that's going to make them so much better. Yes, it makes them a better football team. I don't know if he's going to be up to speed this week so quickly. Like, he'll get his plays. He's a good receiver, but he's not great. It seems like a game that everybody's going to be banking on, and it's probably just not going to come through.
Right. And then also I'm also avoiding that Patriots and Titans game because both teams, let's be honest, both teams are bad. But at least with Tennessee, they could score, but the defense is not all that. Let's just put it that way.
If I knew Drake May was starting for the Patriots and was healthy, I would take the Patriots, but he's not healthy. We don't know if he's going to start. He's not 100%, so I'm staying away from it.
That's what I did. I stayed away from that. Now, where can my listeners find you on social media, by the way?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter or X. That's the best place to find me, at the DUnit13. So THEDUNIT 13. I'm there all the time. Got my DMs open. You can hit me up with fantasy questions or sports questions. You can also catch me Tuesday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern on Bridge the Gap YouTube, Bridge the Gap Pod. I do it every Tuesday night. So you can check me out there. That's the best place to find me. But Twitter's the best place to find me and my writing. I write for Fantrax. I'm the content director over at Dynasty Pro, so we got great articles coming out every week for you guys. But Twitter's the best place to find all my content right now.
Good. Now I can find something to watch on Tuesdays now that baseball season is over.
Yeah.
But at least my Tigers made it to the playoffs. So
hey, Detroit's on the come up, man. Detroit looked really good. I was there for the draft, man. It was awesome. They've really invested. The teams are looking good. The city's looking good. I think it's really on the come up overall.
All right. So thank you very much. And I look forward to having you on a future show. We should do something like this again.
Yeah, let's do it some other time.
All right. We'll talk later.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
All righty. So that was the NFL pick. So right now I'm going to be doing the college football survivor pool picks because that was one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to separate the NFL and I'm going to separate the college football. So let me stop sharing this screen. All right. And we're going to go to college. And both of those pool, and by the way, it's $10 to get in, by the way. It's $10 to get in. So you'll see it in the video. You'll see it in the video when I'm done with the editing and stuff like that. And there's a couple of games that I'm really avoiding for college football. So I'm in this college football survivor pool. So right now we have 73. And this time we got to choose 2. So last week I chose, beginning of week 8, I chose Oregon over Missouri because, as you know, Oregon put a blowout on Purdue and Missouri won a close game against Auburn. Then week 9, I chose USC over Rutgers and then Iowa over Northwestern. And I did say that game was going to be a blowout, which it did happen. And that game was a homecomer. So I actually got 2 of the games that's already selected, by the way. So let me share this bad boy. All right, let me share this bad boy. So I'm going to give you like, I'm going to give you like 4. I'm going to give you 4. All right. So let me share this screen. Okay. All right, let me share the screen. All right. There we go. All right. So there we go. All right. So let me share it. There we go. And this time you can see the 586 Sports logo. So that's what you know is from my previous live streams. All right. So the first one we have is Minnesota and Illinois. Now I wanted to say it's a 2.5 because I know in college football there's a lot of conference game. So you want to choose the one that's not a much of an upset. And when you look at this, by the way, the Golden Gophers have won 3 straight games, are 5-3. So if they win one more, they are bowl eligible. But for Illinois, they're already bowl eligible. They're 6-2, and they're coming off a tough loss at Oregon last week because I did say choose Oregon over Illinois because Oregon was going to beat the brakes out of Illinois, which did happen. Now, Minnesota beat Maryland at home 48-23. Max Bronsmer threw a career high of 4 touchdowns, and the Gophers rolled to their 3rd straight win of the season to improve 5-3 and 3-2 in Big Ten. Finished the game 26 of 33 for 320 yards and 4 touchdowns, a career best. Their running back Darius Taylor had 97 yards rushing in that game, including a 51 yard rushing touchdown. Daniel Jackson and Elijah Spencer each had 2 touchdown grabs in the game and combined for 15 catches and 216 yards receiving. Gophers had 443 yards of total offense and 9 of 13 on 3rd down conversions. That's not bad. But they did allow 427 yards of total offense in the game. They had 2 interceptions, giving them 5 in the last 2 weeks. Gophers have allowed 5 passing touchdowns all season long. Now, Luke Altmaier for Illinois, he threw 2 interceptions, completed 17 passes for 161 yards. Adrian Largry led the Illini with 69 yards on 12 carries. Running back Kavil Valentine had his first career touchdown in the game as well. They finished with 293 yards of total offense in that game with 132 yards of rushing, 5-13 on 3rd down in that game. That was the defense struggle, and they allowed a total of 527 yards of total offense to the Ducks, including 35 points. So with that being said, do not be surprised that game is close. So if I were you, I would avoid that game. So in other words, that game is a trap. That game is a trap. Next one we have is the Buckeyes against Penn State. That game is a noon game, as you can see it. That is a noon game on Fox. Now, the Buckeyes barely defeated Nebraska 21-17 and then did not come close to covering 25.5 point spread. Sorry for those that did bet the Buckeyes with that big point spread. And Penn State just went over the road to beat Wisconsin 28-13 as a 6.5 point road favorite. Now, right now, the Buckeyes is listed as a 3.5 favorite matchup. Now, as you know, the Buckeyes' only loss was against the Oregon Ducks. As they lose to the 3rd best team in the nation will not disqualify you from the college football playoffs. So, but a home loss against unranked Nebraska could have ended their playoff hopes. That would have been ugly. But they were lucky when they beat the Cornhuskers. All right, and they trailed in the 4th quarter until Quinton Judkins was able to catch a 9-yard pass from Will Howard in the end zone. That's a touchdown. Now, the quarterback is averaging 256.4 passing yards per game on a strong 74% completion rate with a 17-4 touchdown interception ratio. As the Buckeyes are 11th in the nation in scoring with 40.3 points per game, and their defense ranked 4th by allowing just 11.9 points. Now, their leading tacklers have been safeties Sonny Styles with 43, has one of the team's 20 sacks. JT Tolama leads the team in sacks with 4 off the edge, and they have 5 interceptions of the year with quarterback Denzel Burke leading the way. Now, Penn State, they are only one of the 3 teams in the Big Ten that is undefeated. So you have Penn State, Oregon, and 13th ranked Indiana. Now, Penn State has not played the toughest competition so far. They only faced a great opponent once, and that was 19th ranked Illinois at home. Now, Penn State have won that game by 14. And I was looking at the series, by the way, as the quarterback Drew Aller left the Wisconsin game early in the second quarter, did not return to action after that game. Now, Penn State is 33rd in scoring, 33.3 points per game. Defense ranks 8th, allowing just 14.3 points per game. So if you choose Penn State, you got to be worried about that offense. Now, in the previous 10 meetings, the Nittany Lions are just 1-9 versus the Buckeyes. Now, with James Franklin, since he became coach of Penn State, he holds a 4-16 record against Michigan and Ohio State, 3-17 record against top 10 opponents, and a 1-12 record against top 5 opponents. Now, the last time he did that was against Utah in the 2023 Rose Bowl. That was the last time they ever did the Big Ten Pac-12 Rose Bowl. I kind of do miss it. So if I were you, I would stay away from this game because there is a better opportunity for both of these teams. So because right now, I'm saving that pick for Ohio State until they face Michigan. That's what I'm going to be doing. So that's a trap game. Next one we have is Texas A&M and South Carolina. Now this could be upset alert. Now, Texas A&M are favored, but any trip to Williams-Brice Stadium is difficult after nearly missing upset wins over LSU and Alabama. Gamecocks are hungry to knock off a ranked opponent, so I would avoid a game like I said. So one of the adjustments that worked was the benching of starting QB Connor Weigman for dual threat second-year player Marcel Reed, who started a few games when Weigman was injured this year. Now, Reed entered the game with the Aggies down 17-7 in the third quarter, scored on the first touch, having Texas A&M blow out LSU in the second half, 31-6. So right now, it is unclear if the change will be permanent. Now, South Carolina's they do have a best defensive line the Aggies have faced all season. Now, the Gamecocks do have the best pass rush in the entire country. Now, 2 weeks ago, South Carolina did have 9 sacks from 9 different players against Oklahoma. They did face a unique challenge in one of his first run-heavy opponents. Now, last time the Gamecocks faced the team as devoted to running the ball and stopping the run, they lost 27-3 against Ole Miss, and that was a home and coming off of a bye. So that one I would avoid that. I would avoid that game. And another one, it is Northwestern. I'm trying to find this one. Oh, here it is. There we go. There it is. And finally, this is another one. Northwestern and Purdue. Purdue is favored by 1.5. Now, Purdue is coming off a bye week. So for the first time its season opener against Indiana State, Purdue has opened as a favorite. Now, Purdue are a 1.5 point favorite, as I said a couple of seconds ago, against Northwestern. According to FanDuel, the over-under for the game has been set at 44.5. Purdue 1-6 and has yet to win a Big Ten game. They're 0-4. Northwestern dropped to 3-5, 1-4 in Big Ten Conference after a 40-14 loss to Iowa on Saturday. Now, Purdue has not won a game since season opener against Indiana State on actually 2 months ago. 49-zip victory. Now, the Boilermakers last played on Friday, October 18th, suffered to Oregon 35-0. That's and the game. If I were to choose a game, I would say take Tennessee over Kentucky, because right now Kentucky is so done. They're gonna fire Mark Stoops. I can't see Mark Stoops coaching after this season. And another one I also picked is Mississippi State over UMass. So those are my 2 picks that I just picked. All right. So there you have it. Okay, so we're going to stop that video. Oh, Oops, wrong one. So we're gonna stop that video. There we go. I don't know what the heck happened. All right, there we go. So we stopped that video. So those are my picks. So if you did miss the live stream, you'll see it on a video, but this time it will be edited so that way it can be separated. And like I said before, I am doing a survivor pool for NFL and college football. Both of them are $10. Now, if you put 2 entries on one of those contests, you will get $10 free. But please make sure you download that Splash Sports app, register, and use my pro code UUM2IX. You'll see it in the box description below as well. So if you have any questions, comments, or concerns that you want to ask about Splash Sports, and by the way, with Splash Sports, this is more of a peer-to-peer rather than your normal player against the house. You can follow me on X, Instagram, TikTok, and Threads at 586 Sports S, the letter S. And as you can see, you can follow 586 on social media, on TikTok, Instagram, X, Threads, subscribe on YouTube, and we're also available on LinkedIn as well. As you can see, the ticker as well. So it is 7:38. So hey, at least we did a great job. And tune in tomorrow. I do have a very great guest for tomorrow's show for the NFL Pick'em Confident. That should be a whole lot of fun. All right. So you guys have a nice, wonderful, wonderful evening. And congratulations to the LA Dodgers for winning the World Series as well. So you guys have a nice, wonderful weekend, like I said. So take care and have a great Thursday evening. Take care.